Eleanor had always been sensitive to the strange and unexplained. Since childhood, she had felt an unexplainable pull toward the forest near her home, a dense, mist-covered woodland that whispered secrets in the wind. She would visit it often, wandering through its ancient trees, drawn by a force she couldn't name. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Eleanor found herself at the edge of the forest once again. This time, the air felt different, charged with something beyond the ordinary. A voice, soft and distant, called to her from within the mist. Come, come to the bridge. It wasn't her imagination. She heard it clearly, a low murmur that seemed to echo in the deepest parts of her mind. She knew, without question, that this was a call meant only for her. Despite the unease that crept up her spine, Eleanor stepped forward, her heart pounding. The voice urged her onward, its presence pulling her deeper into the fog. She had been here many times before, but tonight was different. The forest was alive in a way she had never felt, as though it were aware of her presence. The trees seemed to lean in closer, their branches creaking, their shadows shifting. Eleanor could sense that something ancient and powerful was stirring. With every step, the mist thickened, obscuring her path. Yet she continued, knowing that this call, whatever it was, had to be answered. The mist thickened as Eleanor ventured deeper into the forest, the path becoming less distinct. Her surroundings grew increasingly unfamiliar, as though the very landscape had shifted around her. The air was colder now, and an oppressive stillness hung in the air, broken only by the distant murmur of the wind. At the heart of the forest, Eleanor found herself standing before a bridge. It was ancient, its stone arches weathered by centuries of neglect. The air around it seemed to shimmer, a faint glow illuminating the space between the trees. She hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do next. But the voice from earlier returned, clearer now. Cross it. Eleanor felt a sudden compulsion to obey. With a deep breath, she stepped onto the bridge, the cold stone beneath her feet sending a shiver up her spine. As she crossed, the mist seemed to part around her, revealing glimpses of strange, otherworldly landscapes beyond. She glimpsed flickers of shadows, glimpses of something both terrifying and beautiful, but she couldn't quite make sense of it. Her heart raced as she moved forward, each step bringing her closer to the unknown. She had crossed the threshold, and there was no turning back now. On the far side of the bridge, Eleanor found herself in a strange, liminal space. The world around her felt wrong. The sky was a dull, shifting gray, and the ground beneath her feet was soft and uneven. A chill ran down her spine as she took in her surroundings. This was no ordinary world. She wasn't in the forest anymore. She had crossed into something else entirely. A figure emerged from the fog, its silhouette cloaked in shadow. It moved with a strange, unsettling grace, its presence sending waves of dread through Eleanor's body. I am the keeper, the figure said, its voice a low, resonant hum. You have crossed the boundary between the realms. You must understand the consequences. Eleanor stepped back, heart pounding. What do you mean? Where am I? The keeper's glowing eyes pierced through the fog, fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. You have opened the door, the keeper continued, and now the realms are bound together. The balance has been disturbed. There is no going back. A heavy silence followed. Eleanor felt a cold weight in her chest, realizing the enormity of what she had done. The keeper's words echoed in Eleanor's mind as she stood in the shadow of the bridge. The air felt thick with tension, the oppressive energy of the space weighing heavily on her. The keeper, who had spoken of the realms being bound together, now watched her with those glowing eyes, waiting for her next move. Eleanor didn't know what to do. The keeper had spoken of consequences, of an irreversible change in the balance of the worlds. She had crossed the threshold without understanding the full weight of her actions, and now she found herself trapped in a place between realities. What happens now? Eleanor asked, her voice trembling with fear. The keeper remained silent for a moment before stepping forward, its form flickering like a shadow in the mist. You must restore balance, it said. The realms are connected now, and you are the only one who can fix what has been broken." Elinor swallowed hard. "How?" The keeper extended a hand toward her, the air around it shimmering. "Follow the path ahead. You will find what you seek." With no other choice, Elinor nodded, stepping forward. Her first step into this unknown realm was one of both fear and determination. She had no idea what awaited her, but she knew that her journey had only just begun. The path before Elinor twisted through a dense, dark forest. The trees loomed overhead, their branches heavy with mist, and the air felt thick with the weight of something ancient and malevolent. As she moved deeper into the woods, she noticed that the shadows seemed to shift and move on their own, as if they were alive. The further she walked, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The forest felt as though it were closing in on her, the trees pressing closer with every step. The silence was broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves, but even that sounded wrong, as though the forest itself were holding its breath. Elinor's skin prickled as a faint whisper echoed in the distance, carried on the wind. She couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Urgent, pleading. She pushed forward, her footsteps heavy, her heart racing. The deeper she ventured, the more the world around her seemed to warp. The forest was no longer just a place. It was a living, breathing entity, and it was watching her. As Elinor ventured deeper into the forest, the fog thickened, shrouding everything in an unnatural haze. Her breath came in shallow gasps, the cold air biting at her skin. She couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was following her. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the mist ahead. Its form was indistinct, flickering like a shadow in the fog, but Elinor could feel its presence. Powerful and ominous. She froze, her heart racing in her chest. The figure stepped forward, its face obscured by a hooded cloak. It was tall and slender, its movements fluid and unnatural, like something not quite human. Elinor instinctively took a step back, but the figure raised a hand, as though signaling for her to stop. "You've crossed into a place where time and space no longer follow the rules you know." The figure's voice was low, its tone cold and detached. "You cannot return the way you came. You are here for a reason." Elinor swallowed hard, fear coursing through her veins. "Who are you?" The figure didn't answer immediately. Instead, it tilted its head, as if considering her question. "Call me the Watcher," it said finally. "But be warned, your actions here will have consequences. The balance you seek to restore may not be what you expect." Elinor felt a chill seep into her bones. She had already realized that this journey was far more dangerous than she had anticipated, but the Watcher's words sent a new wave of fear crashing over her. What had she truly set in motion? Elinor's journey had taken her deeper into the heart of the forest, where the air grew heavier with each passing moment. She had encountered strange figures and heard whispers in the wind, but nothing prepared her for what lay ahead. Before her stood another bridge, though this one was unlike any she had seen before. It was not made of stone or wood, but of shimmering light, flickering like the stars in the night sky. The bridge seemed to stretch infinitely, disappearing into the unknown. This was the bridge to the other side, the bridge between realms. Elinor hesitated, fear gnawing at her insides. She had crossed one bridge already, but this was different. This bridge led into a place she couldn't even comprehend. The unknown stretched before her like a vast chasm. But there was no turning back now. She had to cross. The fate of both worlds depended on it. Taking a deep breath, Elinor stepped onto the bridge, the sensation of crossing it unlike anything she had ever felt before. It was as though she was being pulled between two realities, her body stretched and torn in both directions. But she couldn't stop now. When Elinor crossed the bridge, the world around her shattered. The mist that had once surrounded her was gone, replaced by an unsettling emptiness. The air was thick with tension, and she felt a weight on her chest that made it hard to breathe. She had done it. She had crossed the boundary between the realms, but now the aftermath was upon her. The worlds were connected in ways she could not yet understand. The pull between them was undeniable, and the balance had been disturbed. The keeper's warning echoed in her mind. There is no going back. The landscape around her was changing, warping, as if reality itself was folding in on itself. She couldn't tell if she was still in the realm of the living or the dead. The lines between the two were blurred, and she was caught in the middle. She knew one thing for certain. She had to act quickly before the worlds collided entirely. There was no time to waste. The air around Eryndor hummed with energy as she stood in the shifting space between realms. She felt the pull of both worlds, the living and the dead, their forces intertwined. The ground beneath her feet trembled, as though the fabric of reality itself was unraveling. It was happening. The realms were awakening. The keeper's words had been true. The worlds had become one, and now the balance was teetering on the edge. Eryndor had to make a choice, but she didn't know what the right decision was. Behind her, the fog began to part, revealing a figure, a tall, imposing being with glowing eyes. The Watcher had returned. "It's too late," the Watcher said, its voice cold. "You cannot undo what has been done. The realms are awakening, and there is no going back." Eryndor's heart pounded. She couldn't accept that. She couldn't let everything she had known be destroyed. She had to find a way to restore balance, to separate the realms before it was too late. Eryndor stood at the precipice, staring into the vast unknown. The realms were colliding, the boundaries between them breaking down. She could feel the pull of both worlds, each trying to claim her, to pull her into its embrace. She had made her choice. She would restore the balance. Drawing on every ounce of strength, Eryndor focused her will on the fabric of reality. She reached out, touching the thin thread that connected the realms. Slowly, carefully, she began to weave the worlds back together, separating them, restoring the barrier between them. The process was agonizing, but Eryndor pressed on, knowing that the fate of both worlds depended on her success. With one final, desperate push, the threads snapped into place, and the realms were separated once more. Eryndor collapsed, her body drained from the effort. She had done it. The balance had been restored, but as she lay there, breathing heavily, she knew that the door she had opened would never truly close. The connection between the realms would always be there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for someone else to cross. And when that day came, Eryndor would be ready.